Okay, hello. Having reviewed every episode on this channel, in talking blog style, and also doing a like overall thoughts video on the season, I thought, hey, what better way to milk this season completely dry than to rank every single episode? It's not a lot. We got 7 or 8 plus the special 9. That's like 2/3 of a normal season. So I don't know why it was so short, and I think it was a huge issue with the season. But anyway, I am going to be ranking every episode. This is not going to be a ranking in relation to itself, rather a ranking in if you watched, I ranked every episode of the modern era of Doctor Who in a video series earlier this year. So if you watch those, that's what this is in relation to. It's not really like, oh, is this better than this one? It's more just as Doctor Who stories in general, I'm going to be ranking them. So I always got to do my iteration of the rankings. This is my version here. And let's get them in the order that they aired. Okay, so to begin, the Church on Ruby Road, even though a lot of the foreshadowing it set up didn't amount to anything in the season, as itself, as a standalone Doctor Who story, I think this is a masterpiece. It is the perfect introduction to this iteration of the Doctor, Shudigatwa, and Ruby Sunday's character, as portrayed by Melly Gibson. It's their, it endears you to both of them so quickly and makes them so lovable so quickly that when you jump into the season proper, you already are in love with these characters and want to see them go on adventures together. So it does the perfect, it's the perfect pilot slash soft launch of the season. And the fact that it had the absolute most cringy Return of the Jedi-esque musical sequence, and I still loved it this much, shows you how good the episode was. So for me, this is actually an absolute god tier episode. One of, honestly, it's a favorite. It's so fucking good. Anyway, Space Babies, nothing bad, nothing terribly offensive in it. It just is the definition of mid. It doesn't have anything really strong or amazing in it, but it was just a perfectly standard, serviceable Doctor Who story. Textbook mid-tier episode. The Devil's Cord. Whew. This was shit tier. If you watch my review, only because it's the first time we're seeing the Beatles in Doctor Who, and it absolutely wastes that concept completely. And the Maestro was a really cool villain concept, and I love Jinx Monsoon, but the episode itself was just an absolute mess, and it was such a waste of Jinx too. It was just a waste of everything good that they had in it, like the 60s vibe, the use of the Beatles in the story, the use of Jinx Monsoon as a villain, all these amazing things that were just completely wasted and in just a terrible episode. So shit dear. Boom. Classic Stephen Moffat story. Classic really strong Doctor Who story. It has its fair share of issues, it has its fair share of cringe, but overall it's a very strong piece, and I liked it quite a lot. Yeah, despite its plot holes. So that's definitely high tier. A lot of people are saying it's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who. I would by no means go that far. So that's where that's going. 73 Yards is one I'm completely stuck on because I love the concepts that they did, and so much of it is so fucking good, but they just don't explain enough for the story to make sense in the end. There's a level of leaving things open to viewer interpretation that is perfectly acceptable and in fact encouraged, but you have to meet that level. You have to meet the level of revealing enough to make it comprehensible, and this episode didn't reveal enough information for the story to make sense. And because of that, it just doesn't work. And as good as some of the stuff as like amazing, I will say, as some of the stuff that was in this episode was, I can't give it anything higher than low tier because of the really intriguing concepts and the really good acting and like the really cool concepts, and character work. Like, I would not put it in shit tier, but it just doesn't, just doesn't give us what we need. Dot and Bubble. Church of Ruby Road is my favorite of this bunch, but I think this is my favorite episode of the season proper. It was very Black Mirror-esque and very definitely Black Mirror inspired, but still had that like Doctor Who camp and charm in it, and like managed to like sow its own identity as, this isn't just a Black Mirror episode, this is Doctor Who, and I quite loved it for that. And the ending scene in this episode, if you remember the episode, is just masterful and is probably Shudigawa's best scene in the season, I would say. I would think so. It's just so powerful and so fucking good. I adored this episode. I thought it was great. Would I put it in God tier? No, just because there is some like really cringy cheesiness, and it had some some plot holes and oversights. I wouldn't put it in God tier, but I would definitely put it in high tier. Rogue. I enjoyed watching Rogue. It was just so incredibly rushed, and the Doctors, like, if they did what they did with Captain Jack and had him stick around for like a series of episodes, like a third or a half of the season before his demise in this episode, it would have worked so much better as an episode. But because it really, really rushed the Rogue character and the Doctor's relationship with Rogue, it just doesn't quite work. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in low tier as well, to be honest. I think that's where it belongs. So here's the issue. The Legend of Ruby Sunday was a very engaging and exciting start to what ultimately ended up being a very shitty story. And I'm stuck because part of me wants to rank them separately, but they don't work on their own. You need them as one cohesive story. And I think, I've talked about my issues with these to death in my review of Empire of Death and my overall thoughts on the season. But I think that the issues in Empire of Death and the failures of that to conclude the story and the seasonal arc as a whole, ultimately, as coupling these two together, if I keep them together in the tier list, I think I have to. Yeah, you know what? As exciting as The Legend of Ruby Sunday was, I got to keep them together as one cohesive story, and Empire of Death really, really dropped the ball. So I think overall both of them are going to go into shit tier together as one cohesive episode. And so that's my ranking. And as you can see visually here, my point is made. Like, this is by no means a show-ruining season. A show-ruining season would have the shit tier and the low tier columns a lot fuller. And maybe that's just because there's a lot less episodes, but the fact that we got one mid-tier, two high tiers, and one god tier, like, it's just a perfectly serviceable season of Doctor Who. There's always going to be shit episodes in Doctor Who. That's just the nature of the show. The duality of the show is that for all the incredible, life-changing stories that there are also absolutely awful stories. And that's how it's been since 1963, when the show first began. So, by no means like an awful season. It just had a lot of stuff that didn't work, as evident by the shit tier and low tier. But, overall, I still very enjoyed it. I still, and if you want my overall thoughts, there's an overall thoughts video, and you can watch my individual reviews of every episode. But, I loved Millie Gibson as Ruby Sunday, awesome companion, and I loved Shudigawa as the 15th Doctor, one of my favorite Doctors, maybe even my number 2 behind Tennant. So, yeah, love, a lot to love this season. A lot that didn't work, but a lot to love overall. So yeah, that's my ranking. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys with another video tomorrow.